I'm so glad to welcome you to the Clark Howard Show, where the goal is to help you save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off. I'm going to talk about a spending less opportunity for you coming your way in just a second. Coming up in just 20 minutes in today's Clarkrageous Moment. So many people are now victims of identity theft that it's changing how you use the internet, and that is Clarkrageous. And then a half hour from now, something really exciting. Millennials are better savers than normal American earthlings. I think it's great. I'm going to tell you what they're doing that we should have done and things you could still do and learn from them. I'm going to talk right now about whole paycheck. By the way, if I didn't say so, you can follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. When you have a question, clarkhoward.com/ask. Whole Foods has been upset with me over the years when I refer to them as whole paycheck. But the fact is they have a marketplace problem. It's very expensive to shop there. And they're losing some amount of relevance in the marketplace as others have learned to sell organics at a much lower price. Kroger in particular has been a thorn in their side, as has Costco. Well, now Whole Foods believes they have the formula to deal with their market weakness, and that's 365. 365 is the new discount version of Whole Foods. And the discount versions will have much smaller selection. It's not quite Aldi kind of thing. They're going to have somewhere 6,000 to 7,000 items in the store versus 50,000 that are typically found in a Whole Foods. I'm talking about different items. I love what 365 will be about with the much smaller selection, because I am absolutely shut down what's referred to as the paradox of choice. If I'm in a traditional supermarket and there's 82 different kinds of ketchup, I don't need 82. I need one bottle of ketchup, or with any item in the store. That's why I'm such a big Aldi fan, ALDI, because there's one or two choices in each product category, period. Stores are smaller, much cheaper to shop there, and that's the playbook that Whole Foods is using with 365. And 365 stores will pop up all over the place around America if it works as well as I believe it will. The other thing is stores are going to be much more streamlined in how they're organized, so it'll take 1/5 the number of employees to run one. They're squeezing out all the costs that have made shopping in a Whole Foods such a great experience. My wife will come home from a shopping trip at Whole Foods, and she'll say, I know I've been a bad girl. I shopped at Whole Foods. But it's great shopping there. I mean, it is a fun place to shop. And she loves it. But the problem is, for most American families, it's a bridge too far. It's a cost too great. And that's the beauty of 365. And who knows if later on I'm going to say, well, I thought it was a good idea, but I think this one's going to really work and going to allow you to have that combination of the foods you love at a much better price. Follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. Our web address, clarkhoward.com. When you got a question for me, go to clarkhoward.com/ask. Martin is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Martin, I am sorry to hear that you got stuck with a crummy tenant.
Yeah, me too.
Tell me background. What happened?
One day, a year ago, last March, got a nasty phone call that I supposedly had damaged his grill, and the next thing I knew, some blinds got damaged, and he demanded that I fix and replace the blinds. But
wait, so your tenant is saying that you were damaging things?
Supposedly that was the original accusation.
And why do you go around your rental properties and break stuff?
I don't.
Yeah, I know.
So, and then there was a mini blind in a 6-foot wide window, and that suddenly fell down and got damaged. So rather than put up a 6-foot blind, I put up two 36-inch blinds. Well, he was outraged at that, then started making all sorts of other accusations that I was running a substandard place and it was full of bugs and full of all these other problems, and then he said he wasn't going to pay the rent. I eventually had to take him to court to get him evicted. That took a lot of time.
Wait. So he's still living in the place.
Well, he was at the time, yeah.
And says, yeah, but, I think your place is a rat hole, so I'm going to live here, but I'm not going to pay you for it.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
This is somebody I think you definitely want to rent to again, huh?
No, not really.
Yeah, I know. So you go to court, you get him kicked out.
Correct.
And at that point, how much money are you out in months of unpaid rent and court costs and all that?
About $2,200 at that point in time.
And is he gainfully employed?
Yeah, but he's very secretive as to where he goes, and he seems to go from job to job and not want to tell anybody where he's at. So he's very secretive and very sneaky.
Right. How can I be of help? Because the most important thing has occurred. You got him out of your place.
Right. True. Eventually, through many hearings, and I'm to say that I'm deeply disappointed with the legal system is just an understatement. But we're not going to go down that one. It takes too long. Eventually, the eviction was of last June. We finally, through multiple hearings, I finally got a judgment for the damages that he did on the way out the door. I initially came up with about $2,600 worth of damages that he did. The judge didn't seem to believe me for some strange reason, and she cut it almost in half, down to about $1,500, and then off of that was my $900 of his security deposit that I wound up keeping. So the judgment wound up coming in at about $600 that he now still owes me.
So you got a raw deal all the way around. You got no rent on the place. The judge, and by the time you're all done, you're at about 25 cents on the dollar.
It gets worse because I'm facing a legal bill of $11,000.
Oh, you did not handle the dispossessory and the action against the tenant on your own in small claims court? You hired a lawyer to do it?
Yes, sir.
You're not going to be able to make that money up, obviously.
Well,
because if the court has ruled, unless you appeal the court ruling and seek attorney's fees and more money, you are out so much more money. I can't even fathom how this has turned so ugly for you. You're out so much. And besides, all you have now is a license to hunt because you have a former tenant who seems like they're going to be very difficult to ever be able to enforce a judgment against.
Well, I've got the judgment. Well, you have to go back one more time for a hearing on the attorney's fees. That has not been settled yet, so that's still coming up.
All right. Well, let's hope your attorney's fees are granted, but it doesn't matter if this individual is very hard to. You can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. If this individual is not gainfully employed at a known location, known business, you're going to have a hard time because the best thing to ever use post-judgment is a wage garnishment.
Mm-hmm.
And your lawyers probably mentioned that to you.
Right. It's when I had him. And see, actually, it was the judge who made me discontinue the lawyer because the judge said when she read that the fees had gone up to $11,000, she said no more attorney's fees. Well, my attorney said, "Well, I'm not going to work for free."
Okay. All right, so tell me how I can be of help, because everything you've told me is such a rotten, terrible story. You're terrifying people who might be considering becoming a landlord. And I got to tell you, having done it for 30 years, almost always it works out great.
I now have a judgment. I want to know how I can either physically collect.
You can only collect with post-judgment questions that can be served to the individual you have the judgment against. And if they fail to answer the questions in most states, you are in a position to potentially get this person locked up, which sounds like would bring you a lot of satisfaction. Then they'd find out what kind of bugs can be in a residence.
Yeah, that's a wonderful idea.
But the thing is, I'm so worried about how this whole thing is just escalated and escalated, where the main thing is you screen tenants as thoroughly as you can before you put them in a place. I hope you have revenue being generated again from the property. Do you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all good. So as far as trying to get the money, you hit this former tenant with post-judgment questions after the question of legal fees is settled. And if you go to nolo.com, NOLO.com,
okay,
there's information that can guide you through this process. And the very fact that you have a judgment against this individual is going to be there hanging on this individual's credit for typically a minimum 7 years.
Okay, Nolo, N-O-L-O?
NOLO.com. And again, I want to emphasize, Martin, your experience has been so terrible, but seldom is an experience with a tenant so gross, so ugly as you have described here. Wow. Really sorry. When you have a question for me on the Clark Howard Show, go to clarkhoward.com/ask. Right now, we're going to take an Ask Clark. That's where you post a question on our message boards at clarkhoward.com. What you got, Joel?
All right, Clark, this one's from Lo. She says, do you recommend buying mortgage insurance, the kind that supposedly pays off the mortgage for your beneficiaries in case you suddenly pass away?
Oh, boy. I am so glad you asked that question, because it is a ripoff to the max. It is one of the worst, unsavory, dishonest, unethical, sleazy, crooked things that the big banks do. Mortgage life insurance is something that has a premium on it, usually about 10 times or so what you should be paying for life insurance. But what makes it even more disgusting is you are buying insurance that protects the bank, not you or your heirs. If you have a need for life insurance, buy a life insurance policy, and whoever your designated heirs are will decide what to do with that. But mortgage life insurance is garbage, trash, and it should not even be permitted to be a sold product. It points out the moral and ethical problems of today's banks. Today's Clark-rageous moment is kind of frustrating. Well, it's a lot frustrating for me. It's a survey that was done by the Division of the Commerce Department. They surveyed 41,000 households in the United States, and it says that we got a mess going on with online that's changing how you and I can use the advantage the Internet offers, which makes it today's Clark-rageous moment.
Scams, ripoffs, outrages. It's a Clark-rageous moment.
Okay, 1 in 5 people, 1 in 5, survey says, have had an identity theft problem in the last 12 months. Online breaches very common. Nearly half of people say problems about security on the web have become such a concern for them that almost 1 in 3 have stopped doing online banking. 1 in 4 have stopped buying stuff online. 1 in 4 have stopped posting on social networks. That's not like going to eat up e-commerce. I mean, this is a serious problem begging for solutions. it is absolutely Clark-rageous that you no longer might feel safe doing online shopping or doing online banking because of all these data breaches. That is terrible because it is such an efficient way for you to track your money, to buy things, whatever. You know, we absolutely have to look at, in your own life, if you are doing online transactions like online banking, brokerage, whatever, please set up what's known as two-factor authentication. You may not even know that the provider has it. Two-factor authentication goes way beyond a username and password. It may use some form of biometrics, or it may involve, as often as, a text message to your phone that you're going to have. The crook hopefully won't have it. Or it may involve your voice pattern, which is unique. The reality is we have a system that's making people feel insecure in huge numbers. And we got to get it fixed. But until it's fixed, you need to take steps that will provide more security for you, such as with Gmail, adding the additional step when you put in your username and password that you have to wait for a unique one-time code, a 6-digit code that comes on your phone that you have to input when you're signing into Gmail that keeps your email safe and sound. Glad you've joined us on the Clark Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to keep more of what you make. Follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard, our deals site, deals.clarkhoward.com. When you got a question, clarkhoward.com/ask. Okay, I love what I'm about to share with you. A new survey from Bankrate finds that millennials, generally I think in this case being referred to as people in their 20s and 30s, are better savers than people who are older. I take that back. On this survey, they're doing up to age 30. Up to age 30, people are paying down debt quicker and saving more money for retirement or emergencies than people up to age 50. This is phenomenal. And I don't think it's an accident. I don't think it's a statistical aberration, anything. Because a lot of people came of age seeing their parents suffer, or their aunts, their uncles, family, friends. A lot of people really got hurt after the financial scandals, the bank bailouts, the Great Recession, people losing their jobs they got after they lost their job, losing that one, ending up working for less money, not having savings, having a lot of debt. And that drama and trauma, I think, has led people who are younger to a different path, believing that it's important to save money, have rainy day money, prepare for yourself. And a lot of people that are younger despise debt. Now, I am not someone who believes that debt is an inherent evil or anything like that. I believe that debt has appropriate places in your life. Debt for lifestyle, I can't stand. That's like credit card debt. Can't stand it. And I'm not a fan of all these car loans people are doing that go on forever. My rule about car loans makes me sound like I'm like completely out of touch. It's truth. Because I've always said, and the math supports me, that if you can't afford the car payment on a loan of 42 months or less, you cannot afford that car. And that's at a time that people are taking out 84-month loans. Double the length that is the max you should be taking out a car loan for. So learn from people up to age 30. They're taking a different path. Not every person, but the general tone is that they are. Roughly 2/3 of millennials are saving a decent amount for retirement. That's a big number. And that's much higher, ironically enough, than people that are closer to retirement, approaching age 50. So actually, your kids can teach you something. Save more, spend less. It's not just the philosophy of my life and the mantra of this show. It creates a lot less anxiety in your life and a lot less insecurity and gives you a lot more power and control if you learn to live on less than what you make and save money.
Robert's with us. Hi, Robert. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Great, thank you. So, Robert, you are my hero. Is that is that an accurate statement?
I hope so. I've learned a lot from you.
Well, no, it sounds like you're the teacher. What is it that you are doing right now that is extraordinary?
Well, basically, I save 26% of my net pay.
Let's repeat that. That is not 26% of your
net.
gross paycheck. That's 26% of your net, which is very impressive.
Thank you. I'm all about saving and investing. So I invested in your companies that you recommend. I have a Roth with Vanguard, and I allocate in the Star Fund and also the Mid Cap Growth Fund.
Okay.
And I allocate 11% into that on a weekly basis because I'm all about dollar cost averaging. So I do that on a weekly basis.
Okay.
And then I do 6% in my savings, and then 9% of my employer 401k, which they match up to 5% of your salary. Does that make sense? 100% up to? Okay.
So you mentioned me in the beginning about how you became like this, but I'm betting that this really came from how you grew up and what you were taught in your family.
Well, opposite. My mom is the opposite. She's unfortunately, in her 60s and doesn't have a retirement. So I'm the opposite, if you will. You know what I mean?
So you learned the lesson backwards.
I learned when I was very young to invest in DRIPs, dividend reinvestment plans, every month in these companies. So I learned at a young age, but unfortunately I got caught up in gambling, and that took care of a lot of my money. But probably in like the last year or two, I got out of all debt except for I own a condo, I have a mortgage, and I have a car payment. That's it. No credit card debt. And I actually have more money to allocate in investing in savings. That's what my question is. I don't really need my savings. There's no return there. I know it's a cushion. But I'm curious to open up another mutual fund, but then there's taxes on capital gains and
sure. But capital gains taxes are very favorable. The money you have in a savings account gets hit with the worst kind of tax rate, known as ordinary income tax.
Correct.
And you're building up such large cushions that it's good to have. In your case, with so little debt, if you were to have 90 days of available cash, that's plenty. But there is an alternative in building a portfolio for somebody who saves as much as you do, and that is to put your short-term reserves in a short-term bond fund.
Okay. And
depending on your tax bracket, it could be a short-term tax-exempt, or it could be a short-term taxable bond fund, corporate or government, where what that means is it's the equivalent of having money where if you look at those bond funds at Vanguard.com, they tend to have an average age of the bonds in them of 1.5 to 2.5 years.
Okay.
So there's some risk that if interest rates were to take off, inflation were to take off, you could lose tiny amounts of money, but not a lot.
Okay.
And the return will tend to outstrip over time what you could earn in a savings account, since those rates are so puny right now. But there's when you look at the savings side, doing short-term bonds or CDs or savings accounts, that's not the long-term real action. The real action is going to be you investing in a portfolio that over time I would want you to have more international.
Okay.
And I'd also like you to have some money in the third world, in an emerging market mutual fund, or the cousin, an emerging market ETF.
Okay.
And as you build up more and more investment knowledge and greater amounts of money, I'd really like for you to become more and more familiar with building a portfolio, because in the Star Fund, you built a widely diversified portfolio right away. But I'd like for you to consider looking a step beyond, and that is where you diversify your money in the separate piles that you can build as your knowledge rises and the amount of money you have increases. So congratulations to you on that. I wanted to ask you, I'm very curious because you said it so matter-of-factly, what kind of gambling were you doing?
I was into sports betting at Atlantic City every weekend. I lived in Maryland. Now I'm in Florida, but I was in Atlantic City almost every weekend. Blackjack. Back then I just had a lot of money at my disposal. Credit cards. Unfortunately, I filed for bankruptcy in 2001 because of that.
Wow. So you've been through quite a journey.
I have, but I've always been I've always invested. Back in the day when I was a kid, not a kid, but younger, I was always interested in the burger funds, and I had a lot of mutual funds through the burger funds. I think they're called American Century now.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, but now I love Vanguard.
What's not to love?
Correct. There's no fees.
Right.
I love seeing my shares grow. I love accumulating. And dollar cost averaging is huge. So instead of doing it on a monthly basis, I do it weekly. And
I just got to tell you something. I'm very impressed with you.
Thank you.
Because you're enthusiastic.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
You're completely honest with yourself and others about, the wrong turn you took was your wrong turn.
It made me who I am today, though. You know what I mean? You learn.
And you've changed your life moving forward. Life is a long-term journey and sometimes has dead ends, but you found a path back from it. You should feel great about that. Continued success to you. Laura is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Clark.
You had a travel experience that was not so wonderful. What happened to you?
I was forced to check my carry-on bag as I was entering the plane on a flight, and inside of it was my laptop. I didn't think about it at the time. I was the last one to enter the plane. Stewardess took my bag, said she would bring me a ticket. She brought it to me right before the plane took off. As the plane touched down, I had a connection. I asked if I could get my bag because my laptop was in it. And she said no, I would have to wait till I got to my final destination. When I arrived there, I waited for my bag to come off the belt. When it did, it felt light, and my laptop.
Sure enough, your laptop was stolen.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that airlines specifically exclude from coverage any item that their employees might be tempted to steal. Jewelry is one of those things, electronics, computers. Essentially, the only things covered now under airline baggage policies are your clothing. I have a different question for you. Did you pay for your airline ticket with a credit card?
I paid with my bank card.
Was it a credit card or a piece of trash fake Visa or fake MasterCard?
It was a Visa debit card.
That's what I call a piece of trash, because the protections you might have with a credit card don't apply on a piece of trash fake Visa or fake MasterCard. With many credit cards, by buying your airline ticket with the credit card, you get essentially baggage insurance with it. Did you happen to buy the laptop within the last 3 months?
No.
Okay. You're not helping me here. All right. What is the only suggestion I have for you is to see if the airline will give you any form of travel voucher that would cover any equivalent to the value of the laptop. Because the airlines have completely bulletproofed themselves on these claims because of the problem with the sticky fingers with the employees. And so what you want to seek is, how old was your laptop?
It's just under a year old. Okay,
so if you figure that a laptop loses half of its value in the first year and then loses of its remaining value about 25% each year after that, what did you pay for your laptop a year ago?
It was $1,300.
It would be
$1,200.
It would be reasonable for you to ask the airline for $600 in credit towards a future flight. It doesn't cost them money. You're showing yourself to be very reasonable in what you're seeking, and it's not your fault that they ran out of overhead bin space and took a properly sized and legal carry-on from you. that had your computer in it. So I think it would be very fair for them to give you the equivalent that it doesn't buy you a new laptop, but it does buy you a certain amount of future travel.
Mm-hmm. My other concern is that after speaking with them, they said that I tried to call them and contact them about getting this issue resolved as quickly as possible, and they said that I would have to wait 14 to 21 days.
That's what the law permits.
Okay.
And it will take that long to answer, but don't be surprised if you get a flat turn down the first time. Now, I will tell you another strategy that may work for you, and it's something that even though you legally have no rights, it has been a successful strategy for some people, and that is to sue the airline in small claims court for the loss of your computer. And the grounds on which you would sue them for the value of the computer is that it was a carry-on, it was an item you were taking with you, they seized it from you at the last minute at the gate, it was stolen by one of their employees, and therefore you seek compensation, but not at the depreciated amount, the full original amount you paid for the laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Now, quite often what will happen in that case is the airline will call and offer you something because they don't want the enormous expense of them having to defend themselves in court.
Right.
Do you feel fired up enough to do that?
Yes. Right now I'm just offering to post it everywhere I can on any consumer review on the website.
I think that's a great idea, too. I think that's a great idea, too, to spread the word about how you were treated by the airline. But ultimately, I want you to be made as whole as possible. And being someone who's willing to go into court is a great strategy to pursue if all else fails.
When you have a question for me on the Clark Howard Show, go to clarkhoward.com/ask. Mark is with us on the Clark Howard Show. And Mark, you got a question for me about something that might be exciting to your daughter, but you got to know if it's a deal or not. Is that right?
It's for a friend of mine. She asked me to look into an organization.
Oh, okay.
She's looking for a scholarship for her daughter, who is 16 and finishing her junior year of high school. And the organization's out of Washington, D.C., but they have to pay $900 for them to look for scholarships. And
all right,
and it didn't sound right.
I need to tell you that you are a good friend to your friend to call before they blow the $900. This organization has all kinds of clouds over it, and the worst thing is that the principal of this one was one that had to leave another one that got in all kinds of legal trouble for making promises about how high school students were going to have access to top people in a field they might be interested in and have a chance to rub shoulders with experts and make contacts that would be helpful in college and beyond. And on top of it all, have information that would lead to little-known scholarships that would be available for them for college. You smelled a rat already. That's why you wanted to call me, right?
That's correct. But she said the teacher at the high school said it's legit, and someone on the board of the organization, the Navy doctor, used to be the president's doctor.
All right. So the deal is that there can be people in good faith who think that this is a good organization, but based on the history and what they promise and what they promote, this is a for-profit organization. I think this is one to pass on. And if scholarships is the real goal for this high school junior, fastweb.com, which is a totally free resource, is the best and first place that she should be going. FASTWEB.com is the most authoritative source in the country on college scholarship.
You know, when you're going to buy a car, pricing information is great and necessary, but there's more to doing it than just the price. There's the actual buying experience. If you want to enjoy a better one, you should go to a True Car certified dealer. They're there to help you find the car that you want, and they're also what make True Car unique. With True Car, you can connect with a local certified dealer that you choose, so you can lock in a guaranteed savings off the MSRP and enjoy a totally better buying experience. And by better, they also mean faster. Over 2 million cars have already been sold to TrueCar users who have visited their TrueCar certified dealer. And there are over 11,000 TrueCar certified dealers nationwide, so it's probably pretty easy to find one near you. And check this, for a new car, average TrueCar users save $3,279 off MSRP. All right, so you're probably wondering, how do I do this? It's easy. Just go to TrueCar.com or, right there on your phone, download the TrueCar app. You can find the car you want, see the TrueCar pricing curve, which shows you what other people in your area paid for the same car, and that way you can know you're getting a good price and feel confident. Then you'll get a guaranteed savings certificate from the TrueCar certified dealer. Go to the dealer, and your guaranteed savings off MSRP will be honored, and you enjoy a quick, easy experience. How's that for car buying? So when you're ready to buy a new car, or even a used one, visit TrueCar.com or download the TrueCar app and enjoy the better car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states.
I'm so glad you've joined us on the Clark Howard Show, where it's all about you learning ways to keep more of what you make. Follow me at Facebook.com/Clark Howard. Got a question for me? ClarkHoward.com/ask. Coming up in a half hour, Americans aren't having kids like we used to. And it's going to lead to a lot of opportunities for some people, hazard for others. I want to tell you where the baby bust is going to fit in your wallet. I'm going to talk right now about education and the fact that to make that wallet grow, you have to have the skills, the experience, education to get it done. For many people, the cost of that education is backbreaking, and you might drop out of school. When my oldest was in college, she kept talking about how upsetting it was to her when really good students were having to drop out because they couldn't afford the tuition. They couldn't afford the expenses. State of Maryland actually has a great idea that's been working for a long time. Maryland has a system for generally geared towards adults who are trying to get a college degree, where they have built an ultra low-cost campus in a suburb of Washington, D.C., and in the Maryland suburbs. And 9 of the state's state schools offer educational programs, college degree programs, at this one ultra low-cost campus. Tuition is much lower. It is the same programs you'd take if you went to the traditional residential campus, but it is a much cheaper education. Maryland spends a lot less because they need just basic facilities, classrooms, and the professors that travel to teach those classes for whichever the state university the student enrolls in. It's set up brilliantly at this campus where you do 2 years at community college, and then you transfer for junior and senior year to any of the 9 four-year colleges that offer the program in this common facility. So what's magnificent is one of the things I've had so many complaints about from people about community college, because I'm always talking community college, do your first 2 years at community college, save all that money. Well, the rebuttal I've gotten is how many people go to community college and never finish their degree program. The Maryland program, 75% of the students are getting a 4-year degree. 7.5. That is so much higher than is traditional in the education system. The Washington Post reported that the average age of the students, 27. This isn't for core 18 to 24-year-olds. I guess they could go there and save money. But so many people have jobs, they've got family responsibilities, they may have kids. And juggling all that and going to school and then figuring out how you're going to pay for it is a real problem. And it seems like Maryland is one of the places that's cracking part of that code. South Carolina, aligning its technical schools and community colleges directly with the jobs that employers are trying to fill. That they can't find the right skilled people for. Education has got to innovate and get out of the traditional box it's been in. And I know this is going to sound terrible for me to say, like, who am I to say this? But so many colleges now, state or private, look like country clubs. And they're expensive to run because of it. If the goal is to have an educated workforce and make it possible for people who don't have a lot of money to have access to a chance at stepping up the career ladder and the pay scale and having a better career path, we got to look at these things going on in the states that are really thinking about it from the typical student's perspective and not the privileged kid's perspective. Eric is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Eric.
Hey, Clark. How are you?
Great, thank you. But you're having a tough time, aren't you, Eric?
Yeah, I've been through a pretty rough divorce, kind of finalizing everything, and I'm just looking for ways to be able to leave different things to my kids, and want to make sure that whatever I leave kind of goes by my wishes rather than what somebody else may want. Okay,
so first of all, I can tell you have been through it, and I'm going to ask you a question completely unrelated to what you want to ask me. Are you getting the kind of support? Are you getting the counseling you need?
Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you, it's been unbelievable. The people that have come out to help me, and it's been great knowing that there's family and friends for that.
So tell me about your kids. How many do you have, and how old are they?
I've got a son who's 9 and a daughter who's 7.
All right. So your 9-year-old son, 7-year-old daughter, are you sharing custody, or are they with your soon-to-be former wife?
They share time with us 50% with their mother and 50% with me.
Okay. And so you each have responsibility for time, so there's no child support going back and forth because you're each doing 50-50?
That's correct, yes.
All right. So the money you're trying to protect, tell me more about that if you could.
Oh, well, eventually I'd like to purchase another house. Certainly I have some life insurance. Should something happen, I want to make sure that that's available for my kids. That's probably the biggest one is the life insurance.
Okay, very easy.
Very would come around.
Very, very easy for you to protect that money for your kids.
Okay.
So if the whole purpose of life insurance in your life is to provide for your children, first as minors and then later as a young adults, let's say, and then you might not have the need for the life insurance anymore, you set up what's known as a life insurance trust.
Okay.
And with a trust, you appoint a trustee. And if I'm reading between the lines, and maybe I'm reading wrong, but if there's a concern that if your former or soon-to-be former wife was trustee, that the kids might not get benefit of the money, is that?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. So what you do is you appoint someone else as the trustee of the trust.
Okay.
If you have a sibling who you think would be great, aunt or uncle to your kids who you think would be great handling the trust, then they're the trustee handling the money for the kids.
Sure, good.
And do you have a life insurance agent you deal with?
Yes, I do.
Right, so you can call him or her and say that you need to establish a life insurance trust, and that is a common, everyday thing they do at life insurance companies.
Great. Okay.
So you'll be able to protect that. On the issue of the house, if you buy a house and you want the kids to ultimately have ownership of that house, you have a two-edged sword there. Because when you buy the house, you're going to have a mortgage. And if the kids inherit a house that doesn't have much equity, all it is kind of a pain for them.
Sure.
But if, as the years roll on and you have more equity in it, then you've got something that's of tangible value to the kids. And you can title it in a way that potentially the kids would have ownership. But the better way to do it at this stage of their lives with them 9 and 7 years old is to, once your divorce is final, you do a new will. Mm-hmm. And in your will, you account for your kids' inheritance.
Okay.
And the house being part of that.
Okay.
And that way you have the flexibility that as your kids get older, as your circumstances change, as your will is updated, you deal with those changes in life.
Sure. Okay.
So that kind of stuff I think you're okay with. And the will is especially important in this case, where I can tell this has not been, there are all levels of divorce. This one sounds like it's not been a picnic. So you want to make sure that your kids' interests are best protected in many ways, and a well-drawn will by a lawyer who specializes in wills, estates, and trusts will do a lot for you beyond just the issue of this house.
Okay, great.
So best of luck to you, and I have one other question for you that's very personal. How are your 9-year-old and 7-year-old coping with all this?
I'm sorry?
How are the 9-year-old and 7-year-old coping with
they've certainly had a tough time, but I think they realize that, I'm certainly going to be there for them, and they're my first priority, so they'll manage to get through it.
Okay, well, best to them and to you. Mary is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Mary.
Hi. And first, I just want to thank you so much for everything you do for all of us. I've learned so much from you. I really appreciate your work.
Thank you for saying that, Mary.
Well, so I had heard recently about some concerns that there was roadside assistance on the clue reports, and I had an experience recently where I had an accident, and then I received notification that my rates were going up and that I should get my clue report. So I did, and I noticed the accident on the clue report, but I also saw on there 2 windshield repairs, just the inexpensive chip repairs, for which I'm paying a little bit of extra, each month on my insurance. So there were 3 incidents on my clue report, 2 of them being these less than $100 repairs to the windshield that were done 2 years apart.
Wow. All right, so let's go over this for your fellow listener, because most people don't have a clue what a clue is. And a clue report is where it's like a report card on you for the insurance industry. And what came up before that you mentioned on as an aside is that people are being ruined on their auto insurance premiums because they bought the additional coverage for towing or roadside assistance from their auto insurer, used the towing, and then they got put in the clue report penalty box where they became radioactive to shop for auto insurance. And now you're bringing to the table something no one else has ever brought to my attention. That is that windshield chips that can be repaired, sometimes the insurer may only be paying to the contractor they use $15 or something to repair your windshield for the chips, and then they're ruining you for being able to shop for insurance or surcharging your rates.
Exactly. And I called my insurance agent right away. I was so upset. And he didn't even know about it. And so I just said, well, cancel my windshield insurance. And I guess I'm wiser for it now, but those are going to be on my report for a little while longer now.
So the important lesson for everybody to learn from you, Mary, and our prior caller about the towing thing is that auto insurance is moving more and more to like I've described with homeowners insurance, that you can only use it when you got a big-time kind of claim.
Right.
And so anybody who's buying, and thank you for the tip, I don't know how many insurers are ruining people because they had a windshield chip repair. you want to use your auto insurance only for the big time stuff. Don't get riders for various little things. And little things you need to pay out of your pocket because the insurer hits you twice over the head. One, making it that no other insurer wants you because they make it look like you've had 1 million claims on your Clue report. And then two, they charge you much more for your insurance because they say you had claims, including something that might have cost them $10 or $15. When you have a question for me on the Clark Howard Show, go to clarkhoward.com/ask. Mark is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Mark, you got a question for me about your credit cards.
I do, Clark. I have 9 credit cards, 2 of which hold a balance, and I want to know which cards I should shut off and get rid of, and which ones I should basically keep, revolving versus just a Visa, MasterCard.
Okay, so the first answer I always have is no cards. The reason that that's always my first answer until we can go through a series of questions is that as you close accounts, it lowers your credit score 2 different places and can devastate your score depending on how much you have charged on the 2 cards that you are running balances on. The tests that I look at are this. All right, the 2 cards that you have open with balances, how large are the balances versus the available credit?
I had larger available until they lowered them on me automatically.
All right, then you definitely want to avoid closing accounts.
Okay.
In fact, with how many of the 9 cards, so you have 7 that are in play that we're talking about, right? How many of the 7 are Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover?
4 of which are Visa or MasterCard.
Okay, those 4... unless somebody just suddenly hits you over the head with a 2x4 with a huge annual fee, you absolutely want to keep those 4 open and active. The way you keep them active is you just need to use each of the 4 twice a year. Okay. I saw something recently where somebody was saying, no, you got to use them 3 times a year in order to stay active, but that's only one time I've ever seen that. But using them twice a year, kind of evenly spaced, like once every 6 months, put it on a calendar. You can go spend $5 on a card, $1 on a card, just whatever, and then pay it immediately in full. That will keep that as active and available credit in what's known as your ratio section of your report, which is 30% of your overall credit score.
Stay tuned for 60 seconds of AP News headlines right after this podcast.
Welcome to the Clark Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to save more and spend less, and don't let anybody ever rip you off. Follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. You want deals? Go to deals.clarkhoward.com. There's new data out from the Centers for Disease Control that find that American women are just not having babies like American women did just a few short years ago. It's all from the trauma of the Great Recession, and the number of babies being born is well below what's called ZPG, zero population growth. We actually are facing declining population in the United States based on how low the birth rate is. So the theoretical number of babies that an average woman has to have in order for us to be at just even Steven is 2.1. I don't know how women birth that 0.1, but 2.1. And right now in America, I saw something in the Wall Street Journal that people are birthing on average 1.85. I don't know how you got that 0.85 baby either, but it's all averages. And the effect is that people having babies now will have more opportunity, believe it or not. But the country will suffer economically from having a population that's aging and a population that could decline except for legal and illegal immigration. And so people having kids will find less competition for pre-K, less competition for spaces in the best schools. Or if you're going to open up the wallet for private school, it'll be easier to get your kid in private school. All the way through, the kids that are being born in this era of a shrinking number of kids being born means that there's going to be opportunity for those kids. What do you do if you're an employer, though? We are going to have, I know this is weird with all the unemployment we've had and all that over the years, where we've had underemployment, people that are involuntarily part-time, people that are making less than they used to make. The demographics can be destiny for a country. The demographic picture shows that we're going to have a steady increase in the demand for each of us in the employment sector. But the key, going back to what I talked about a half hour ago, is you're going to have the skills necessary to grab a hold of the opportunities, which are going to be plentiful. So the opportunity is coming our way. The hardships of the recent years are going to fade, but seizing the opportunity is going to be up to you and me. Michael is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Michael.
Hey.
Michael, you are 16 years old?
Yes, about to turn 16 this summer.
15, and you want advice on investing from me? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm kind of shocked. At 15, you want to know how to invest. Where did this come from?
Well, I got this book, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Money for Teens, and it was talking about it in like the latter chapters about investing in like good, smart investments for teenagers, and one of them was mutual funds, and I didn't really know what they were, so started doing research. Then my dad told me to email you and ask you, so that's what I did.
All right, so a mutual fund is a very smart concept. It's where a lot of people take small amounts of money, pool it together, and then have someone manage the money and pick how your money will be invested. And so mutual funds made it possible for people without a lot of money, Michael, to be investors alongside people who come into the game with massive amounts of money, where that used to be the only people who had a chance to invest. But I believe, and you probably, in the guide you read, did they also talk about something called index funds?
Yes.
So I'm a big advocate of index funds instead of traditional mutual funds. Because an index fund, instead of having a manager picking what your money goes into, you just become kind of like a mini mogul in your own right, because with one investment, you own little pieces of as many as 3,000 different companies. So you own American capitalism all with one investment. And I just think that's a great strategy for you to look at. How do you come up with the money that you would invest?
Well, I have a CD account right now that ends in July with a little over $1,200 in it, and I don't really need that right now, so I think maybe invest some of it so I can make money on it later.
All right, so I have a made-to-order account that I'd like you to look at that you have to have $1,000 to go into, and you got $200 more than that, so you're in the game. It's something called the Star Fund. Was that in the book you read about? Did they talk about the Star Fund?
They did not.
Star Fund is a product of Vanguard, which is an ultra-low-cost investment company, one of the largest investment companies in the world. And in the Star Fund, your money You put in your $1,200, and your money is spread all over the place. U.S. capitalism, capitalism overseas, stocks, bonds. So you own little slices of pretty much all flavors of traditional investing. Because what you want to be about is you want your money to grow over time, and at the same time, lower the risk, which you do by diversifying.
Okay.
So with that amount of money, when the CD comes due, I love the idea of you being a star fund person. And then as you have more money, you can add to it.
Okay, cool. I'll totally check that out.
And are you going to be working this summer?
I'm not going to be working. I'm going to be in an apprenticeship.
Great. What are you apprenticing?
A locksmith.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Well, our producer, Krista, really could have used your services yesterday. She locked herself out of her car, filling
at a
up
gas
the car
station.
with gas. Yeah. So, well, that's great. So is this what you want to do as your life's work, you think?
I think so. I really like it. I did it last summer, too, and I really enjoyed it, so.
Great. And you could have gotten her in her car, right? You know enough now, huh?
I probably could have.
Wow. So moving forward, when you start working, there's something I want you to pull that book back out and read about, or read about it on my website, is Roth IRAs. Because you start that as a teenager. You have to have what's known as earned income from a job. But you start doing a Roth as a teenager, you have the potential to be a very wealthy man down the road. Not just comfortable, wealthy. Good luck to you. Follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. Our web address, clarkhoward.com. When you got a question for me, go to clarkhoward.com/ask. Robin joins us on the Clark Howard Show with the most unpleasant situation. Robin, what just happened?
First, thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
And last week I was laid off.
I'm really sorry.
No, thank you.
You know, it is something that always hurts. Is this something that you expected, or did it come like a bolt out of the blue?
Oh, I kind of expected it, but I hoped it would pass me over.
Okay. Well, the only thing I can tell you that you might not be ready to hear yet, but this is a much better time to have faced a layoff than 5 years ago, 4, 3, 2, because the job market is much healthier than it's been for a while.
Well, that's good, I guess.
Well, how can I be of service today with your immediate needs?
Okay, well, I have been offered a severance package, and I have about $15,000 in credit card debt. I have 30 days until the severance kicks in, so I'm still working and getting a paycheck. My question is if I should pour all the money I can toward that credit card debt or into savings so I can bulk up the severance.
Into savings to bulk up the severance. Because even though the credit cards may carry a significant rate of interest, you eliminate your flexibility if you just use money to wipe them out. Because right now what you need more than anything else is flexibility.
Right.
Because you don't know if you're going to be unemployed for weeks or months. And because that's such an unknown, and right now I hear in your voice, you're still in shock from getting the layoff notice, and that's a natural, normal thing. And give yourself time to grieve over that, over the loss of the job. But then as you come up with a plan to find new work, you need that flexibility of having that cash available to you. Even if it means, I can't believe I'm going to say this, even if it means you just pay minimums on your credit cards for now.
Okay.
I'd rather you just service the cards than worry about the overall balances till your job situation settles. Are you going to apply for unemployment compensation?
Well, actually, I haven't researched into that.
All right. Well, one thing I can tell you, don't delay on that. You want to know what your rights are and apply as soon as that is the right thing for you to do. It's time for the Empowerment Zone. That's where our producer, Kim, talks with someone who has really stood up for himself or herself or made a difference in their lives by being a good advocate. Today, you get to meet Laura, who's helping out her elderly mom who's faced some challenges with dementia, who was being ripped off by a stockbroker. Wait till you hear how Laura kept getting a no and turned it into a yes.
I have her financial power of attorney, and since she has Alzheimer's, I'm pretty active as far as her finances.
That's Laura, and she's talking about her 84-year-old mother. A couple of years ago, she took on the responsibility of her mom's financial accounts, which at the time were at a high-commission investment house.
I went in person to their office to tell them that she had dementia and to show them my power of attorney and that I was taking over her accounts. So a few months ago, I got a statement on her account, and I looked at it, and I was just shocked to see that most of her IRA money had been shifted out of the very conservative account they were in, I think it was the money market, into the high commission, high fee stock funds that this particular investment firm promotes.
And not only had they moved the entirety of her mom's IRA money, $50,000, the fund move generated a $2,000 commission that was deducted from her IRA.
I called the company immediately and learned that one of their representatives had called my mother and persuaded her to give him permission over the phone to do this. I spoke with him and said that I wanted him to put my mother's money back like it was because I believed they had taken advantage of her, that they knew she had dementia, they knew I had power of attorney, and they called her up and persuaded her to do this. He told me that he did not personally know that my mother had dementia. And I said, well, you know it now. And I said, I came in person 2 years ago and told the head of the office. I said, it's not my fault if y'all made no effort to note that in her file. I said, I want you to undo this. I want you to put her money back like it was, and I want you to refund the $2,000 commission that you charged her on this. And he was pleasant, but he blew me off. He said, well, I'll have to talk to somebody in the such and such office. I said, fine, go ahead and do that. I called 2 more times over a 2-week period and got the same kind of blah, blah response, with it taking longer for me to get a return call. I mean, I got the same story every time, but they would need to talk with so-and-so in the regional office, and they just never progressed beyond telling me that. So at that point, I called the Securities and Exchange Commission and explained I got switched around some so I got to the right person, but I explained to that person with the SEC what had happened and asked if there was anything I could do about it. And she said, oh, you have grounds for a complaint. She said, I'll send you the form. She said, we'll start an investigation. And she said, they are under the law required to explain their behavior in this matter. So after I got off with her, and I called the investment firm back again, and they said, and this man actually said to me, Ms. Levis, what is it you want? That was some mystery. And I said, I want you to refund my mother's $50,000, including the $2,000 commission that you folks charged her. Within 2 days, it was done with no further conversation.
Laura has since moved all of her mom's money into accounts at one of Clark's favorite low-cost investment houses.
I had to get my mother's consent. I had to get it notarized. I had to get this, that, and the other. But I just decided I could not leave any money with them. I had no guarantee they wouldn't do this again. You just have to keep a constant eye out for the sharks that are always trying to separate an elderly person from his or her money, particularly once they start getting dementia or senility or Alzheimer's or whatever it is. You just really have to be so on guard about your loved one.
Laura, your advice is something I can so relate to. My mom has dementia, and when she was in the earlier stages of it, she was getting ripped off for significant amounts of money. Some of it we were never able to recapture as her adult children. I want you to know it is so important that you be nosy as your parents age. They're not going to like it, but it's the right thing for you to do. If you have a story that you think could inspire your fellow listener, go to clarkhoward.com/empowerment zone.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Howard Podcast. Download new episodes every Monday through Friday at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com. Stay tuned for the latest AP News headlines from Podcast One right after this.
The folks at Podcast One would like to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this show. We enjoy it as much as you. As a new or loyal listener, we'd like to ask a favor of you, and we'll show you a little love. The first 500 people that go to podcastingsurvey.com and complete a short online survey will get a $25 gift card to restaurant.com. Oh, but that's not all. You'll also have a chance to win an additional $250 just for filling out the entire survey. So get there fast. Podcastingsurvey.com. Go now.
AP Update. I'm Carlotta Bradley. Democrats have nominated a woman as their standard bearer. AP correspondent Jerry Bodlander reports.
Hillary Clinton has just won the Democratic presidential nomination. It is the culmination of an effort that was sidetracked by her loss to Barack Obama 8 years ago. Clinton, the first woman to head a major party's presidential ticket. It was South Dakota's delegates that put her over the top, giving her more than the 2,382 delegates needed. Jerry Bodlander at the Democratic Convention in Philadelphia.
Georgia Congressman John Lewis addressed the convention saying Hillary Clinton is smart, tough, and never gives up.
I give you a leader, a great leader who can unite us as a nation and as a people, a leader who can break down the barriers and build a better future for every American.
AP Update. I'm Carlotta Bradley.